Every time we hear about Chicago, it's never good. And a huge part of that is because of one man, Mayor Brandon Johnson. When he's not busy whining about videos on social media showing federal agents cleaning up his city or letting fraud, waste, and abuse run wild on his watch, he's getting absolutely destroyed for his economic failures. Johnson was confronted over his ridiculous $21 per head tax on large corporations, and the pushback exposed exactly what everyone already knows. Radical left policies will destroy any city they touch. Chicago is just the latest example of that. As always, the best way you can show your support and that you enjoy the content is by smashing that like button. That tells me you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more breakdowns like this.
The community safety surcharge. It's a job killer for the city. Why, if I were Google, would I stay here in the city and pay that head tax instead of going out to Naperville?
The notion that these taxes kill jobs, there's just no empirical data that corroborates that. It just doesn't exist, you all. We found a way to generate revenue without it being on the backs of working people, without having to raise property taxes, without expanding garbage fees, without collecting a grocery tax. As someone who is a part of the labor movement, who comes out of the working class, my father who worked his butt off, the third shift to raise 10 kids, I know what it's like to open up a refrigerator and there's no food in it. I know what it's like to have an orange extension cord from my window to our neighbor's window because we cannot afford electricity. There's no way in the world that I'm going to present a budget that's going to harm the working class.
Yeah, Mayor Brandon Johnson, he's showing you why he has the lowest approval rating of any mayor. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, an economic expert, world-renowned, or a financial guru for you to figure out exactly the cause and effect of doing something so catastrophic, such as applying a $21 head tax on corporations. This will only hurt the city of Chicago more than it helps it. But Brandon Johnson doesn't understand it. Why? Because it will discourage hiring. A company that knows every new hire comes with an extra city fee is going to delay filling roles, outsource jobs to cheaper cities, or shift to remote workers outside of city limits. And so instead of encouraging local employment, it does the exact opposite. It discourages it and pushes companies away from hiring locally. And what Brandon Johnson is failing to take into account is that this is not just about Chicago. There's a global economy. You're competing with other cities, other states. Companies can leave. They can move to more favorable places. Cities compete with each other. If one city adds a head tax while its neighbors don't, corporations will logically relocate. This is exactly what happened in places like Seattle when they tried a similar tax. Amazon and other companies fought back, threatened to leave the city of Seattle, and less than a month later, the same city council that approved the tax reversed it. Now, I'm not saying that you should feel bad for Amazon or any corporation, but the reality is people need jobs. The people who work for these companies need those jobs. And when you make it harder for the corporations to want to grow and expand, then that's exactly what they'll choose not to do. Or they just won't do it in your city. And even for the companies that decide to suck it up and stay, it'll still affect the working class because it'll affect employee wages, employee benefits, and as we mentioned before, employment opportunities. This is where progressive politicians like Brandon Johnson completely miss the mark. Your background, your hardships, your personal story, none of these justify penalizing people who found economic success. Struggling growing up doesn't give you a moral right to target those who didn't. Success isn't a sin, and it shouldn't be treated like something that needs to be punished through policy. A lot of these progressive proposals come from emotions, not economics. From a mindset that says, I had less, so you should give more. It's another situation of you built something, so we're entitled to a piece of it. That mentality cripples cities because you can't grow an economy by attacking the people who generate jobs and investment. And the longer Democrat leaders like Brandon Johnson cling to this resentment-driven model, the faster cities like Chicago will push businesses, opportunity, and talent right out the door.
So in terms of the corporate responsibility that we're calling for through the community safety surcharge, that's going to go towards $50 million to hire young people. It's going to go to the wellness and the health of our police officers. There's a provision in there that ensures that we're providing support for victims and survivors of domestic and gender-based violence. And then, of course, our CVI workers, which has been demonstrated all over the city of Chicago, where brown and black organizations have community members who are working in some of the toughest precincts in the city where they have driven violence down.
This is where it makes me genuinely believe, how did someone like Brandon Johnson get the job as mayor of a major city like Chicago? He genuinely believes that slapping a $21 head tax on businesses is somehow going to fix Chicago's economic issues, and it won't. We've already seen this movie. I already showed you Seattle, and look at California for another example. But according to Brandon Johnson, there's no real proof that this won't work. And remember, this is also the same mayor I showed you in another video who refused to give ICE any credit for driving down crime in the city of Chicago, despite what the data says. And so he's not operating from a place of reality. He's operating from delusion and ideology. But you know what he does have time for? Criticizing ICE over social media videos because it has rap music in it. Yeah, you heard me correctly. That is where he wants to focus his energy, because Brandon Johnson has shown us every time he gets a chance to play the victim, to spin the narrative, to blame someone else, he will take it. Take a listen.
Even when he was on his way into federal court, he paraded down the street and saluted individuals. And then they go on social media and put hip hop music to their terror in black and brown communities. That's not even a dog whistle anymore. That's some real racist, jacked up stuff that he is engaged in. And the fact that we're putting black men in chokeholds, ripping black children out in the middle of the night, zip tying them, putting families who are documented or ostensibly undocumented into the back of vans, that's terror. That's not who we should be as a country. And it's unfortunate because you have a president who is such a brittle man. It's unfortunate because now you have these men who are weak and insecure are using a uniform to administer terror.
No, what's unfortunate is that sanctuary cities like Chicago rather give refuge to criminals rather than work with federal law enforcement to remove them. They rather house and feed criminals and endanger the citizens of the city of Chicago than work with federal law enforcement to make their city safer. And for Mayor Brandon Johnson, he should spend less time worrying about rap music being played in social media videos by ICE and more about what's going on in his own city. The saying goes, get your own house in order. And right now it's not for Chicago. Chicago public schools got exposed again. It's now been revealed that taxpayer money was spent on unauthorized trips to places like Egypt, Finland, and even Vegas, while staff stayed in luxury hotels buying high-end items on the public's dime. And so while parents can't get basic resources for classrooms, somehow administrators can take international vacations with taxpayer money. Take a listen.
Terrell, the new report from the Office of Inspector General points to what it calls questionable excessive spending on overnight trips for CPS employees, including staff excursions to places like Egypt, Finland, and South Africa. This morning, the oversight body Watchdog urging Chicago Public Schools to reform its travel policies after the Office of Inspector General found CPS travel expenditures surged to $7.7 million last year. That's more than double what the district spent 5 years prior before the pandemic. The report states CPS staffers repeatedly exceeded spending limits and expensed trips and activities without approval, including a professional development conference in Las Vegas that more than 600 employees attended between 2022 and 2024, spending more than $1.5 million in district dollars. Nearly 90% of attendees stayed in hotels exceeding CPS spending limits. The Watchdog Group also found about 40% of all conference attendees traveled without receiving approval.
This is what's happening in the city of Chicago on his watch. While he's busy criticizing rap music and social media videos, more than $1.5 million in district dollars are being spent without authorization. Nearly 90% of the attendees in luxury hotels exceed the limit. 40% travel without receiving approval. What that means is people were just taking trips because they felt like it. And so it seems like instead of him being worried about prioritizing the city of Chicago and how to make it better, he's trying to figure out each and every way to actually sabotage the city and drive it further into destruction. I mean, I hate to keep bringing it up, but it just sounds so idiotic to me. He's worried about rap music being played in an ICE video because of it's racist, but you're not even protecting the black and brown community that he says that he's there to protect, at least when it comes to education and economics. I mean, this is clearly an example of him doing that which he says he's there to do. But I'm sure Brandon Johnson will find some other opportunity to play victim in short order soon as one comes up again.
This all while CPS faced a $734 million deficit this year before passing a $10.2 billion budget in August. CPS says the district takes the report findings seriously, saying in part, quote, effective October 29, CPS is restricting nearly all employee travel and has formed a travel review committee effective November 2025. Travel controls, transparency, and auditability will improve with the implementation of the new enterprise resource planning financial system that is currently underway. And the district says this new system will hopefully improve automation and implement more restrictions when it comes to things like travel expenses and travel requests. We also reached out to the mayor's office for a comment. They say they have no comment for the time being as they are still going through this report themselves.
So let's wrap this all up. While Brandon Johnson is obsessing over implementing a $21 corporate head tax that will kill jobs, while he's distracted attacking ICE over rap music on social media, Chicago Public School is burning through taxpayer money on unauthorized luxury trips. This is what happens when leadership is driven by ego, ideology, and victimhood instead of discipline, accountability, and results. The city falls apart, the money disappears, and the people get stuck paying for the failures of people who never should have been given that much power in the first place. Chicago doesn't have a revenue problem. It has a leadership problem, a problem rooted in mismanagement, bad priorities, and a refusal to tell the truth about what's actually breaking the city. And hey, until the citizens of Chicago stop rewarding incompetence and start demanding results, the cycle won't stop anytime soon. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts. Drop yours down below. As always, the best way you can show your support and that you enjoy the content is by smashing that like button. That tells me you like the video, and subscribe for more breakdowns like this. And as always, until next time.